solutions, dependable roofing and more. Very strong. KFR Roofing, providing solutions, dependable roofing and more. There's a leak in this old building. Very strong. And 5 years or more. Hey, go ahead on the tag and share. Let's get everybody in. KFR Roofing Solutions is a fully licensed and insured contractor ready to serve you. Call us today at 850-576-1032. From new roofs, roof repairs, and a revolutionary shingle treatment that rejuvenates and saves you thousands. We offer fair prices for the consumer with warranty options that exceed other companies. Visit us at kmrroofing.com or give us a call at 850-576-1032.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Oh boy.
How you feeling?
No. Listen. God is good. Truly, truly. Wake up. Wake up.
I gotta get you situated. Want to say good afternoon, and we want to say Happy New Year.
Happy New Year
to everyone that is tuned in on this wonderful, wonderful Wednesday. It's the first one. Is it the first Wednesday?
The first Wednesday.
First Wednesday of a brand new year. I want to say good afternoon to Mary Lambert. Hey, listen, go ahead on and tag and share. Let's get everybody in. We're gonna try to do some forecasting here, trying to get this situated. We're gonna do some forecasting here in a few minutes. So go ahead on and let's get everybody in.
Yeah.
Let's get everybody in. So how are your day? How's your day going?
You know, the kids went back to school today. Shout out to all of the instructors and principals and teachers and systems and organizations that's handling after school. Listen, we have had our kids since last month, third week, and now they went back to school today. Wow. And to all of the parents that had to let them go on back crying, you know, you're doing the work of the Lord. Let them teach them children. But definitely prayers over our schools, prayers over our administrators. They all went back to school today, and it was something. Traffic was something else.
Yeah, I've been basically these school zones with these flashing lights and these ticketing devices is like driving people bonkers.
Why?
Because they're ticketing you like this now. Yeah. They are.
Well, what?
But anyway,
are they driving too fast? What they doing? If you see the thing that say school zone and you don't slow down, and then it get to the end school zone. I don't know.
It's something. I've ran across a lot of people that have been talking about it, and we're gonna have to talk about it. But hey, so it's a new year. 2025. We ended the year with some amazing events. Lots of crazy stuff. And here we are in 2025. There are some things that we've got to get engaged in. Things that are happening on a national level,
right,
are affecting us. But there are things that are happening on a local level that are impacting us even more.
Well, yes, amen. And I think that we've had this conversation before, Pastor James, that now is a time for the church to arise. It's a time for leaders in ministry to become more aware, because I believe that we are getting into times where ministries will have to step up. They will have to step up in resource. They will have to go back. Back in the day, the primary nonprofit organization of the community was the church, which is why you saw a lot of organizations grow out of the arm faith-based organizations or faith-based landmarks within communities. And we relegated a lot of that down to, NGOs, non-governmental organizations, and different entities that carry out mandates that biblically, are within the parameters of the church to facilitate or at least collaborate to provide. You look at Joseph and his stead that the Lord used him in Egypt to preserve the people of God in the place of government of a quote unquote pagan nation. And so we have to understand that everything is local. And everything that's happening nationally and internationally has local implications. And so I think we're in a prime position with this show to truly provide clarity on those things and really amplify the voice and awareness of the faith leaders, the faith communities within this community, to focus on what matters, to focus on the infrastructural things that if the junk hit the fan, and you only have to look to what happened with Head Start when that shut down. The faith-based organizations were corralled, if you will, in partnership with non-governmental organizations and nonprofits to provide solutions for the issue. But it's going to have to become an ecosystem of activation as opposed to just kind of reactive. And so it's an opportunity, but there's a lot going on, and I think the church has to arise.
Yeah, I can't concur no more than the fact that I think this is a moment, this is an hour where, even with the show that we're doing every Wednesday, I think we've got to be in this year. I hate to just say it like this, but I think we have to call a spade a spade. And I think we cannot move into this year with issues that are confronting us and we not be, very thorough in pointing out what we see, whether it's good, bad, or indifferent.
Sure.
Because there are some things that we're going to be challenged with. And I think, as you said, the church, the leadership, the faith community is probably one of the strongest communities in the Black community. And I think faith leaders have to really make their voices heard when it comes to issues and when it comes to things that are surrounding our communities. I mean, we cannot sit silent. I think that does the people a disservice.
But we're not supposed to sit silent. And if you go back to base theological exegesis, you see that God has put together two swords in the maintenance and the order of mankind, and that is government and the church. Even in the stead of the holiday season we just came out of, one of the tenets of worship for the angels was, "And his government shall have no end." Right. And so there's no dissension between God and government. Now, how that plays out in righteousness and in the agendas that we've established over time, steeped in culture, steeped in whatever, I think that the ministry of the gospel has an opportunity to rise. It has an opportunity to set forth righteousness, and in that have an opportunity to truly empower people. And I'd like to stop seeing Band-Aids, quite frankly, applied on the public policy level. I'd like to see us do the hard, difficult work of change and be able to call a spade from that perspective. Because I think we get into personalities. The personalities are just facilitators of beliefs, of systems of thought. And if our thoughts ain't right, our actions are going to follow suit, And so I think that it's really important as a ministry on radio to be committed to setting forth righteousness and letting the chips fall where they may, and it may fall on the rough side of somebody's opinion or the rough side of somebody's feelings, but we're not here to be emotional. No, we're here to be impactful.
Yeah, and I think that is key. What you just said, we're not here to be emotional. We're here to be impactful, and as we reflect back on 2025, we only reflecting back to see that there were so many issues that we were faced with as a community, as faith leaders, whereby we were not united, we were silent, and then the few people that were speaking, they were considered, I don't want to use the word what they were considered troublemakers when you're talking about what's best for people. And I think that as we move forward in 2026, there has to be, especially with those who are seeking to serve people, to serve communities, there has to be dialogue. There has to be a level of accountability when people take office. And we have seen, and as we look back, we've seen that the people voice in certain issues and certain situations throughout 2025 really didn't matter. The people that you knocked on doors for and said you was going to represent them, the people that you said your voice is going to be their voice, really did not matter. And so I think this show that we do weekly has to really be definitely, I'm trying to say it in a nice way, but we definitely have to challenge people's mindsets even the more. This is not about personality. This is about what is right. And if right is right and wrong is wrong, I don't want to be in the middle of not being able to defend right or to call out wrong in this season of my life.
So this is the hard truth. The hard truth is that every meaningful reformer, leader, or boundary setter gets called a troublemaker.
I didn't know.
By people who benefit from things staying the same.
Oh, wow.
And I think that it's really important that we understand that there are people who benefit from the status quo. And status quo is not necessarily complicit with ordinance and statute, right? It signifies a culture of doing. And I think that it's really important for us to differentiate. So the question becomes for all of the leaders out there, because we talk a lot about leadership matters and good leadership. When you're labeled that a troublemaker, really what they're saying is you're a change makers, because troublemakers break things, but change makers reveal things. And if you're revelatory in your function, of course you're going to have to be, you're going to have to be oriented with the fact that people see you as a person that asks questions that people avoid. You're a person that don't accept that that's just how it's done, right? You're going to be someone that says what other people feel, but they don't want to say it themselves. You don't play small to protect egos. You don't force people to be, you force people to be accountable, right? And you change rooms just by going in them. So when you go in the room, they already know what you bring with you, right? And so I like to change the narrative on the entire conversation about troublemaking, because it's really a misinterpretation.
Yes.
Right? It's change making. And the thing about change making is uncomfortable. It makes people uncomfortable. It disrupts folks who are used to the same old, right? Who's acclimated to a system of being. But the unfortunate part of that is that if you don't disrupt, then you will be a participant in the stagnation and the retardation of impact. And so it's really important that we have this conversation. And I know in our community, we tend to go along to get along, and we don't want to ruffle no feathers, and we like to respect folk because of the struggle that we face. But it's some stuff that we have got to do. Yeah. We have got to create this comfort, but it's got to be with purpose. And that's what I hope happens. Not that we get on here with emotion, but that our goal is impact. And that's just going to be uncomfortable, but it'll cause thinking people and intelligent people to dial in, examine, and react and respond. And that's what we want.
And that's going to be key. That's going to be key. Because as we move forward, we've got to be able to embrace change. Mm-hmm. And we got to be able to recognize that at the end of the day, change has occurred. Now, how do I didn't win this battle. How do I not join in to help to ensure that as we move forward, whatever direction we're moving in, I'm moving with it. So much talk about the Florida State and the TMH hospital in 2025.
Beat the death.
Yeah, and here we are now in 2026 with everything moving forward.
And I think that's the process, right?
Yes.
That's the process. The fight is the process. And like you said, discomfort ain't dysfunction. And resistance ain't an evidence of being wrong. Resistance is a part of the process, right? But I think the thing that we have to do is not assign labels to what's going on, right? We can't get caught up in the Bloods and the Crips. Oh, they on this and they on that. The mediating direction and path forward is found in the middle. And there are men ordained to mediate that process, right? But the fight, the expressions, the public engagement that people don't want to hear, right? That's a part of it. You gotta be willing to hear, because those folks are responsible based upon the agenda or the constituent base they represent to make their voices known, to make their recommendations known. And we've got to have a different perception of what that looks like. But we also, as leaders, have to learn how to mitigate and how to come to agreement, right? It may not be 100% of what you want. It may not be 100% of what you think is right, but it's a meeting in the middle, and that's how democracy works, right? But I think that if we don't do that on the local level, because we see so much nuance of authoritarianism happening on the national level, the local level is the last bastion of the preservation of democracy until that wind passes. So we have to get it together on the local level so that we can tread the winds, because national is happening. The winds are blowing. There are things I agree with and things I don't agree with profusely that are happening, right? But at the same token, the local level is where we bring balance and we represent. And so we have to be mindful of that as we go into this election season. And we have to hold people accountable to the statutes and ordinances and functions of government, and not worship agendas, in this hour. And so that's uncomfortable. People like to be on sides. But
and one of the things that I want to ask you, because I know it's going to be probably people are feeling a sense of hopelessness. I mean, you're engaged in the community. You're involved in housing. You're involved in so many areas whereby there are a lot of blighted. There's a lot of hopelessness that occurs. How important is it for people to really become aware and educated about our voting system this year? I mean, what significant impact will it have for people of color to get out and vote?
Well, I think if people don't realize how important the voting system is, they need to realize how important other people believe the voting system is. They think it's so important that they have to hack it, that they have to try and control it illegally outside the bounds of government authorization or government facilitation and statute. They are finding ways to recreate constituent basis.
Absolutely.
In order, and I think that we may not think it's important, but they know how important it is because of the energy that's being placed in manipulating it, right? Or in curating it towards a certain favor. I think that there are things that people need to understand about our government in this hour. They need to understand that Social Security has to be authorized. It has to be authorized. That fund, which used to hold the pensions and the monies of folks to store toward their retirement, is not only having to be reauthorized as an expense, not a reserve, but it also is going to be relabeled. So it's not going to be your Social Security anymore. It's going to be called a federal benefit payment. What does that do? That changes the whole constitution of what it is. Now, how do I feel about that? Inherently, I feel like it's kind of wrong for the people who have paid into that system as a system of insurance against their retirement, things of that nature, to call it to relabel it with their money in it. But I also sense that the federal government has been funding this thing for so long that they're saying, hey, we call it what we want, because at this point, it's not a reserve, it's an expense, right? And so I think people need to understand how that works. And if under the sound of my voice, if somebody has a different opinion about this, please let me know, or a corrective opinion. But there are so many things that people need to understand about how government actually works now. When they look at SNAP benefits and things of that nature, which we've said is a right, different types of things that we ordain as rights, federal guarantees on home ownership and loans and things of that sort. Those things are an expense to the American people. They are government backed, which means that your loan for your house is guaranteed by your neighbor. It's guaranteed by the full faith and credit of the United States. If I'm making $10 and my bills are $100, I'm functioning in a deficit if I got to borrow $90 a month to live. That's the American government to a great extent. And I have people that can go into the delving of what expenses are, which expenses are culminative expenses of all the people that aren't reflective of government, and which expenses are actual government. And that's an important conversation to have. But the problem is that we're not having it.
No.
So we don't know. And faith leaders have to know that so that we can interpret agendas and movements and policies properly so that we can know how to respond, not react,
but
respond.
Yeah. I want to say something to a point that you made when you said, here it is. We are not aware of how important voting is to us, but others are. Special session is going to be held in April to redistrict communities. And if we really knew how important it was for us to get out and vote, and if we really knew how important it was for us to be able to really understand who's running and understand the real agenda of the persons that are running and become really educated about this, we wouldn't have all the political infighting that we're having, because all of us will have one agenda, and that is to ensure that our neighbors are okay. And it wouldn't be a group over here that's concerned about this. It would be, we're concerned about our neighbors. And our neighbors are everybody, whether you live in the 5-bedroom or you live in the 1-bed, you're our neighbors. And I think that this year, this show is going to be one that our voices will definitely probably I like what you said, change. I mean, because there are people who have to answer now some of the tough questions that they probably have have not been confronted with. We got to I'm at a place in my life in 2026 where my yes is yes and my no is no. There's no in between.
Amen.
And I'm at a place whereby if I like it, I like it. If I don't, you're not going to second guess about how I feel about a situation, about government, about a person who's running for office. Right. And I think that we have to be able to address issues that are affecting our people. I'm looking at some of the things that are going on in some of our surrounding counties, and it's just heartening to see how leadership is really taking advantage of people. It's heartening to see how the people who look like us are struggling the most because of leadership from people who look like us. So the surrounding counties, even in our own counties, we got to do a better job at selecting people to serve in leadership. I don't care whether you like them. I don't care whether that's your cousin. But at the end of the day, is your cousin qualified to do what he or she is running to do? I mean, so I think we've got to really challenge people to look beyond the surface and dig deeper into how will you best serve me and this community. I think that's so important. I really, really do.
Well, I think what you're talking about is reframing the narrative, right? And that's where the real power lies, right? We have to, as a community, begin to understand form and function. We've got to know when we've assumed titles, false titles, and we've got to lean into our true titles, right? Because if we don't lean into who we truly are on the community base, then we will compromise. We will compromise based upon constituent whatever, right? But our goal here is to own our function here on this space, own our function within the ears of the 15,000 people
Absolutely.
that we have reached to listen to. And we have to ask hard questions because they matter.
They matter.
And we have to pray that the Lord would give those who listen and us as we speak clarity. People want to hear prophecy, but we ought to be praying for clarity because there's enough people out there talking and prophesying. We need clarity. We need communicative clarity so that leaders will know how to direct. They will know how to inform the movement of policy in a way that creates impact. The hardest thing for you and I both, I'm sure, and many people that really can see it from the ground up to process, is that you see the gaps that agenda creates in progress. You see how opinion, or you see how status quo, you see how that impedes progress. You see how resource distribution puts band-aids on issues instead of, holding up the ground of the problem, right? And so we have to get to the point where we challenge our leaders. We'll call their mama out and get in their personal whatever, but they are there they're labeled to address issues and to address them early. And that's the role of an informed constituency, to work together to identify issues and bridge solutions so that they don't become local crises, right? And we surface those problems so that we can bridge from reactive to truly authoritative.
Wow. Let me read this. This is a comment from one of our listeners. They said, there are a lot of barriers in the Black community.
Yes.
Even though they may be free to vote, oppression is beating them down. And we, not our government, have to find a way to become their helpmates.
Okay.
We have to find a way. And this is something that I think is truly profound. The word. We have to find a way to be their helpmates. Listen to this now. When God created, when I read this, I automatically thought about this. When God created Adam, he said, I don't want you to be alone. So I'm going to create, and I'm going to bring a helpmate. So when he brought forth the woman, it was a man with a woman.
Yes.
And they were designed to work together to help.
Okay.
So you take that concept there, and the church is the bride, the woman. So now we got to be able to find those who are without help and be able to provide them, because she was designed to be the helpmate. So there are so many who need help, need our help. And if we don't challenge, and I we gotta have to do it. And I like what you said. We don't have to call nobody out about this, that, or the other, but we gotta challenge and the reason we're saying faith leaders is because they are the voice that is in our community. Yeah. And we gotta really figure out, how do we come together? How do we unite? I mean, everybody's not going to always agree, but we got people who need our help. And you can preach to them on Sunday. They can speak in tongues and not speak to one another. They can shout till their feet get light and not walk the path to do what needs to be done in our community. So what impact are we really having when the problem is getting worse and we still churching?
So I let me build upon your point. I think two things. The first thing is that I believe that there's more progress than we know about. I believe that people are being helped. I believe that people are moving forward in a lot of different ways that we don't know. The problem is that it's like the 10 people that needed help and the one that came back. They don't come back to tell you how they were helped, right?
I'll have to really, truly agree with you on that.
We don't hear from those who get who. So
and nor do those who get help reach out
Come on
to
now.
help somebody else.
Come on now. Because there's a cultural shift here, right? Because we used to, in the institutional, I hear my husband talk all the time about Swain Bethel and all these churches and how they used to help, how they knew each other, how the community knew one another, the families knew each other. They were trained to minister to the needs of the community that they knew. And you grew up with your friends and you grew up with their families and people knew you. And I think that we're in a time of unprecedented disconnection. And I think that people get the help and they don't come back to herald the pathway they went to help other people. And some of that is they need to be trained how to do that. And some of that is we need to be mindful to reach out and find out how the help has helped. The other piece of that is that we're on the problem side of this stuff, and we see the continual recidivism of help not gaining traction, right? So we see the over and over struggle of folk because they continue to come and ask for help, ask for this, ask for that. And we're pulling our hair out like, wait a minute, we put you in contact with this, or we put you in contact with this. And so I think that there needs to be a two-sided conversation here. The one is that we need to hear the stories of progress. We need to hear, you do that with the Joseph Project. You do that with, the many recognitions. A lot of people do that with the recognition systems that they put in place. We need more of that because people need to hear that algorithm needs to echo throughout the community so that people can see that reaching up does result in help. And then the other piece of that is some of the folks that are in the recidivism of assistance, they continue to need assistance. Some of it is because the ecosystem of assistance is broken. It's not set up in a way to engender their stability and then sustainability. And so I'm using big words to say some people are just set up to fail over and over again. And I think we need to call that out. Right. Some things that come to mind are conversations about behavioral health and in the foster care system. Right. How do we address those issues with children who are, dependency cases and their families and what mechanisms are being put in place to stem the tide of the trauma that these children continue to face on different levels, whether it be from the dependency level when they're taken out of their home or the trauma they may experience in agency care or state care. How do we come into awareness of that? And that's where the faith-based community is a great conduit for these real conversations. And then the other piece is, how do we train and empower residents to understand the reality of now? Because things have changed. The way things are done have changed. It's not the same. You don't access information the same. You don't get opportunity the same. Right. You got to apply for a job a different way. You got to get places different ways. Things have changed. And I don't know that in our community, I know that in our community, we are paces backwards in terms of adhering to the systems that provide opportunity. We're not latching on and participating. And so,
do you think we know how to participate?
We don't.
We don't know how to participate. The systems are moving.
That's what I'm being told. We don't know how to do this.
Okay, so here's a comment right here. Here's a comment right here that is very interesting. I don't want to read all of it, but it says that for generations, many of our communities have conditions to view one another as competition. Instead
speak it out.
Of as allies. There's the mindset, there's social labors, there's colorism, economic pressures, and even the way history has been presented have us all reinforced the idea that we must fight each other to survive.
You're talking good, sister.
I mean, so we are now we're always in competition. Always in competition. And that's what's hurting us as a people.
So we're always in survival, which mandates competition.
We're always in survival.
We're always in survival. And I heard someone say the other day, when you live in a state where you're constantly looking for the ball to drop, you can't catch the ball. When you're constantly waiting on the ball to drop, you're not prepared to catch the ball. And the people that catch the ball are people that are running in the direction of the ball. But if you standing still waiting on the ball to drop, the ball may not drop where you standing. And I think that survival mechanism we have, we standing in the same place thinking the ball gonna fall on us. And the ball ain't here. The ball is down the road. And other people are catching it and we're not.
And we're mad.
And we're mad. And we're looking at each other for blame. And then the case systems that we have set, the hierarchy systems we have set up in our community, they help and don't help, right? Because sometimes well-meaning people are caught in the throes of agendas that have helped them get to where they are, that render them semi-ineffective, right? And
because at any given moment, that the agenda to help can change when the pressure has been applied,
or when the benefit doesn't fall to who it needs to fall to.
So you think that really happens?
That there are people that benefit from lack of change?
Yeah.
That's a tale as old as time.
Wonderful. So I believe as we move forward in 2026, and certainly we're grateful for all of you who are joining us online, and we appreciate your comments, because I just know that as we move forward in 2026, I just know that we just have to, we just have to give your voice volume, and we have to allow you to be heard, because this is a moment where we cannot allow the repeated cycle to keep going on. We've got to get out of this cycle we're in as a people.
And the great thing about cycles is that Jesus said, the poor you have always, right? He said that, right? You're going to always have your poor, your biblically categorized poor. But the thought was that it wasn't more poor than there were those of substance, right? And so when you upside down on your resources, where you have more poverty than you have productivity, what do you expect? What happens in poverty?
Wow.
What happens in poverty? What happens? And survival is the gas that poverty runs on. And so I think we have to adopt a different mindset. We have to adopt a kingdom mindset about it. We have to hold people accountable, because you are accountable for the gift of life that God has given you. God has given you breath to breathe, legs to walk. And if somebody gives you opportunity, that is an unmerited act of favor upon your life to do what you need to do in order to make your life sing to the glory of God, to make it productive, to make it a blessing to someone else. And that's the old echoes of what we used to be taught, right? Your life is to be an echo to the glory of God, and you're to be the productive, you're to be capable, you're to use your limbs and your life for that glory. And to see us upside down, where we have more people functioning in poverty than we have functioning in productivity and abundance. That's something that has to be spiritually addressed.
Yeah, that's not the design of God. Well, let me ask you this, as this is our first broadcast, as we look into 2026, much is ahead. What are some of the things that you're hoping that communities can do that have not been done as we move in a very critical year? This year is really critical. It's critical to our city. It's critical to our state. It's critical to our school system. Every facet of government this year is critical. Communities play a major role in making up our city and our counties. What are some of the things that you feel like communities must do moving forward this year to be highly engaged, highly visible, and vocal?
I think the community needs to segment it needs to segment itself in terms of impact and in terms of tracking. How am I going to address the problem of housing? if I don't know what the problem with housing is, if I don't have numbers and data. I may have rough numbers and data from a census that happened 10 years ago, or American Community Survey that happened two or 3 years ago, or some, some small sample survey that is happening on the smaller community level. But what's the dashboard for this, right? Because we know, based on Maslow's hierarchy of needs, housing, safe housing, beneficial, accessible, affordable housing is a key component, right, for human development. And so that's coming as a housing professional and a housing advocate. That's the primary thing on my mind, because once people have a place to rest their head, then they have a place to build a life. And so then we can get into career trajectory, professional development, upskilling, all those things to meet the needs of the workforce present in our community. Then we can deal with how we recruit for the means of public safety, how we recruit for the needs of civil servants. We have a whole generation of folks that are now retiring. I don't think that people really understand that folks are retiring from government. They're retiring from all these institutions that we've had. And at one point, there was record vacancies, right? Now, I think a lot of those positions were eliminated under the realm of efficiency and all those things that we throw around. But I think at the end of the day, those jobs had to be absorbed by others. But did their pay go up with that absorption? You get what I'm saying? And how does that fit into the trajectory of folks being able to afford to send their children to schools, maybe private, or to fund public school extracurricular? How does that factor into them being able to build savings, to hedge against risk? How does that factor into them being able to secure their homestead, have a home that they own? What does that factor into? And the other thing that we need to do is we need to look at what public national policies and movements will impact our local way of life. How will the elimination of taxation on homestead properties affect our local budgets, right? How, and not a plus and minus, because I talked to a friend of mine and I told her, she was like, ooh, that's good. I was like, wait a minute. That might not be good. Think of what that's going to do in terms of the capability of, funding, quality of life in the community, how that factors into. So those are things that I think, to our earlier point, I think we need clarity, and we need clarity on all levels of potential and component change. And we need to see how our folks are moving from the streets to homes to sustainability. We need to be able to see that and catalog those movements. I think we need to watch our population shift. Tallahassee is changing as a city. We need to know how it's changing. We need to know who's moving into Southside, who's moving into, Frenchtown, Levy Park, Midtown, who's moving to the city, and why are they moving here, right? What are some of the interests here that are developing properties? They've developed whole neighborhoods of houses just to rent.
Yeah.
And so,
I've seen that.
You saw, and so, I mean, where is that coming from? You know what I'm saying? What are some of the trends that are happening right in your backyard?
Let me ask you this then. I mean, do you think that do you think people are really, God, I'm trying to figure out a nice way to say this, but there's a population that is never aware.
That ain't funny. I'm just laughing.
I mean, there's a population that's never
funny.
aware.
Mm-hmm.
And because they're not aware, they don't know the impact. And because they don't know the impact, they suffer hardships day in and day out. How are we going to change that narrative? How do we really take city government? How do we take our school board? How do we take our county? How do we create opportunities within these communities where these communities become communities of help? These communities help themselves with your assistance. I mean, I can see that making a difference.
So let me see if I can just throw this out there.
Please do.
Okay. There have been organizations that have brought tremendous effort for helps, ecosystem development, for accessible opportunity and upward movement, that have either suffered from philosophical gaps in their approach or underfunding. If they were funded, some with the right trajectory, but lack of funding has impeded their progress. And let's just go there. Money ain't God, but it worketh all things. You need money to make it. You need capital to make it work. And not necessarily just money. You need resources. You need support. You need a bunch of great things to work together to create this thing called impact, partnerships, all things.
I like that.
But I think that the nuance of funding availability or referendum, like the Children's Services Council, when they came on the block, their beautiful goal was to identify all of these grassroots entities that were making tremendous impacts, that were community based, right? The community knew these entities and agencies.
Did they do that?
And they did. But I think the issue is that these organizations they didn't function like a high level nonprofit organization.
Okay, so I want to, oh God, I know you want to go somewhere. I want to stick a pin there because I got to stick a pin. and T. Kurt, thank you so much for your comment, man. He said you can go ahead and read what he just said. Okay.
He says, this is good and absolute. T. Kurt Myers, this is good and absolutely right and knowledgeable. Maslow hierarchy of needs, physiological needs, basic survival needs like air, food, water, shelter. Yeah. Safety needs, love and belonging, esteem needs, self-actualization. Yeah. It's textbook.
And so now that that's been said, and now that you said they're to identify, and because these nonprofits did not function, but they were doing a service, they were making impact. And if I'm making impact with the knowledge that I have, and I'm doing it, like God bless her heart, Miss Annie. Mm-hmm. God bless her heart for well over how many years? As long as I've been living, feeding the community, doing it out of the passion, the drive, the vision. But Miss Henry can come in and work alongside her to develop her program to whereby it gets to be like city wants it. It gets to be like the county wants it. But we cannot ignore the fact and give her $2 and say, get it done, when we know there's much, much more. How many organizations that are out here birthed out of their passion? How many men that I know have come out of prison and they're doing their own thing? They don't know about going to the Children's Service Council. They don't know about going to the city. They don't know, but all they know, I want to make change in my community. And so they take the 2 little fish and the 5 loaves of bread and hope God multiplies it. But how do we really get them engaged? Because that's where the work is. That's where the workers are. The workers are on the ground level. The workers are not on the 12th floor of the Ivory building. They're looking down. How do we stop the money from being channeled to the 12th floor and we bring it to the ground level? How do we do that in 2026? That's my mission.
Well, I think that's not hard, but it takes accountability from both floors. Mm-hmm. We've done this work where we've gotten resources, not enough, but a seed to take and to activate and empower grassroots folks to.
And we saw the results.
And we saw the results. Captured data-driven, data-verified results. But I think what happens is there's a missing middle there. The missing middle is first of all, the adherence of the actors in the community to a process of development. Because whether you like it or not, and I'm gonna say this, I'm trying to say
it's
this
26.
Right? Okay, I'm gonna say this with all of the tact that I can muster for this. Making change has to change you. If you want to change a community, you have to be changed. And so change makers with a heart for change for a community have to subscribe and submit to a process of personal change. So not only can they continue to perpetuate systems of change of the community, but the character won't interfere with the change that they're engineering on the community level. And I think that that's the missing link there, because governments aren't going, they're into optics as well. They're not going to give us money that's perceived as being given or going in or funding something else, that, you know, because they're still subject to consensus and public opinion. And so it's the role of the people on the 12th floor and the role of the people on the 6th floor to work with the people on the 1st floor to make sure that efforts on the 1st floor translate on the 6th floor, so that the optics on the 12th floor don't get lost in the impact that's happening on the 1st floor. I said a lot. Was that confusing?
No, that was perfect.
Okay. And so I think it's really important that we have that real conversation, because you're right. There are people that are capable, they have legitimate influence, but the change has to change them. You know, you have to be subscribed to that continual development. And I think that's what's missing. Mm-hmm. And with funding sources that come from government, there are KPIs that they want to see, the key performance indicators that they have to see to substantiate, you know, them investing continuously in these entities. And unfortunately, sometimes as agents on the community level, we don't quantify our need well. So we take $15,000 somebody gave us and feed 100,000 people. That ain't enough money. That's a deficit. That's a deficit. But because we know how to feed people, we will take whatever we can to do whatever we can do. But that's not what we said we were going to do. It was 100,000 people. They said they want to target. You only asked for $15,000. You couldn't do that for that. But that's where somebody else who's knowledgeable of scale can come in and say, hey, right.
You know, it's amazing you said that, because I was in a meeting this morning with about 12 faith leaders, pastors, and we were meeting with Dr. Robinson from you know, who used to be the deputy director for the Department of Health. And we're just talking about, she wanted to really have a deep dive on how churches are engaged when it comes to mental health, just some of the things. And she asked the question, how many churches have someone there at least 4 hours a day? And it was about 12 pastors. And none of us said that, you know, we don't have that. And I'm saying that to go back to your point, is that there are opportunities to be funded, but because we don't know how to go about doing what needs to be done, we rely on people to pay their tithes and get their offerings. And that's supposed to sustain everything we do in the community. And the community work has so much impact that the sustainability of just the church cannot do it. So we're in a year that we've got to create strong partnerships if we're going to make meaningful impact.
Amen.
And like you said, you know, that there has to be that 12th floor, that 6th floor, and that 1st floor, because the work that we're talking about, it's ministry, really.
It is ministry.
I mean, it's ministry. At the end of the day, we just don't have the resources to do it. And the people who get the resources to do it, anyway, listen, so.
Yeah, and they're coming to you for it. I think that's the key. That's another key conversation. Is that they're coming to you for it.
They are.
And so there's some hard things that we're going to have to make plain, but you only do that through corralling data with narrative. And you got to have the data, because that's where we're at in this season of stuff. Everything has to be data supported. And that's what we don't do. We don't collect data. We don't have an email address for people. We don't catalog. We used to, and
we just help. We just help.
We don't put on a spreadsheet that so and so called me.
We don't know how valuable. I was on the phone with a young man today, and I'm dealing with his probation officer, and you know, it's just because I think there's so many systems that need to be in place that can really, you can't just say, hey, listen, this is what I need you to do, community service hours. And if you don't have them done, I think people need to really understand, okay, I got them to do, but if I don't have them done by a certain time, that means I could be arrested. So I found out a lot of stuff this morning that really just really bothered me about the system, because I really feel and believe that it's not designed to really set you free.
Well, only Christ can set us free.
Yeah, I mean,
but the habits that we engender, the system is hard. The system is hard for people that ain't got no priors.
Yeah,
right? The system is hard. Life is hard.
And that's why we got to work together, because it's hard.
It's hard. It's hard out there.
Yeah.
Not just for a pimp. It's hard out here for everybody.
A family.
It's hard for families. It's hard. It's hard for leaders. And so that's why my heart goes out to leaders. Every leader under our voice, every leader that's listening and may come under this. We pray God's blessing upon you. We pray God's clarity upon your life, because you can do a lot and appropriate a lot of energy well and efficiently when you're clear. When you're not clear, it's hard. It's hard. So that's what we pray for. We pray for clarity, and we need clarity.
Absolutely. And that's the key. So, I mean, we're excited about 2026. We're going to have some amazing guests coming on. We had an amazing slew of guests on last year. And for those of you who listen to the broadcast, listen, we applaud you for all the help that you do when we decide to challenge you to help us with a project. You come through. Mm-hmm. So we're grateful for all of that. But 2026 is going to be a year that we really got to make impact. It's going to be a year that we got to really become helpmates to each other. It's got to be a year that we can't let personality-driven people make us feel and believe that they are fighting for us when we look at their records and their behavior and we see that they're not. So, I mean, at the end of the day, you got to be able to go through this year progressing. You got to be able to. I just feel that. You got to let your yes be yes and your no be no in this 2026. If you tell somebody you're going to do it, do it. If you tell them you're not going to do it, don't do it. If you tell them you're going to support them, support them. If you're not don't mislead people. I mean, and whatever you do, don't do it to be seen. Do it because your heart is in it.
Right.
And if you want people to know that for you to do it, then it's gonna cost them, then tell them that.
Yes.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna start telling them that starting now. You go out of your way for people, and they don't really understand all that you do, how you do, what you do to make impact. But that's what it's all about in 2026.
I love it. I love the self-auditing that you do.
Yes. Absolutely. Hey, well, listen, I was waiting for Pastor Hagler to call. He's trying to gather on January the 12th. He's trying to gather pastors all over the city to come together for a pastoral breakfast, the meet, greet, and the talk. But he just texted me and told me he was still in the doctor. But that's what he's working on. One of the things that we all was talking about was how do we create unity? And we just talking. He said, well, we just can't keep talking. Somebody's got to do something. So he's putting together a breakfast over at the Jacob Chapel Church on January the 12th, and just trying to reach pastors hey, let's unite. I mean, to see how do we really, really make our voices heard this year. And so that's where we at. It's been an amazing show.
Mm-hmm.
It's been amazing. And we're getting ready. Anything else you want to say to me?
No, we gotta, we're rattling voices around here because we overcoming colds and all kind of seasonal issues. And for y'all that are needing to drink your lemon tea and drink your ginger root, go ahead and get some of that to break up some of that congestion. But we hope that y'all are healthy, that you enter this year in a healthy mindset as well as a healthy body. And definitely thinking of you all who are still grieving the loss of loved ones during this season. But we pray for you to have a prosperous new year, and that you would seek to connect for unity's sake, because we need that unity and clarity.
Unity and clarity. I like that clarity. It's kind of like the blind man said, hey, touch me so I can see. So listen, and please take care of yourself, and do everything you need to do to stay healthy. Until next week, we got a special guest joining us next week, and then the week after, Dr. Robinson, she's going to join. So until then, listen, y'all have an amazing day.
So he's going to.